Hey moms, welcome to the Virtual Six Figure Mom Podcast, a show for moms who want to achieve their definition of success while managing their day-to-day responsibilities and maintaining some sense of sanity along the way. Let's jump into today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, mom friends. I'm so excited to have you all back for another episode. This one's going to be awesome. And awesome for me in part because we're about to talk about some things I struggle with, full transparency. And I want to dig deep because Kate Walker and I have so much in common. I think the conversation is going to be great. We're going to have a lot to share with you all, but I'm specifically interested in hearing what Kate has to share. She brings a wealth of knowledge in the HR space, an author, a speaker, really a true thought leader. So we are fortunate to have her today. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much, Christina. I'm so excited to be here. These are great topics.
Yeah. So tell us who you are. I touched on a few bullet points,
Yes.
but tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm going to lead off with an introduction that I'm a mom. So
Same.
yes, I'm a mom. I don't think I ever lead off with that fact.
Wow.
So yeah, here I am leading off with that. So I'm a mom to two boys, 16 and 19. My 19-year-old is away at college. So that's a little bit strange. I have one still in the nest,
Okay.
who's a junior in high school.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I really do, becoming a mom was life-changing. I'm sure we'll talk about that. Life-changing and just everything. And also wanting to work and have a career. So balancing those two. But as far as my career goes, so I went to college in San Diego. I am a California girl. I went to college in San Diego and my career took me up to LA. I worked in the music entertainment industry for a little while.
Mhm.
And then my travels took me up to the Bay Area, to San Francisco. And really I thought I might be a sports reporter. I'm super passionate about sports and all things sports. I come from a sports family. At East Coast, they were Boston, New England sports fans. That's where I was actually born. I know.
Okay, very intense.
Yes, I know. So come from a sports family, thought I might be a sports reporter, and then came to the Bay Area. And by chance, I fell into human resources. I didn't even know what HR was. I didn't even know, I didn't know anything about it, but I came into a temp job. And when I was in the temp job, I thought, oh, and I'm a communications major in college. I thought, this is really interesting. I get to talk to all the people at the company. I feel like I'm solving problems.
Mhm.
So this is interesting. And I knew I wanted to be, if I was going to be in human resources, I knew I wanted to be in a creative environment. So this temp job happened to be an HR assistant at a global advertising agency. And I just felt like I'd hit the jackpot. I thought, this is really, wow. Okay. I feel really lucky I've landed here. So that was the start to my HR career my career kind of in more creative based industries. So here I am 2 decades later, having done, and I'm sure we'll trade stories. I've worked in all the different functional areas of human resources. And in the later parts of my career, kind of fell under that job title of the business partner. HR business partner. Yeah. Yes. Where you're out on the front lines with the leadership teams and the leaders and the teams and fixing team dynamics and leadership dynamics. And that's really where I just found a spark of extreme joy in working with leaders and teams and helping people be happy at work. I know we can't please all the people all the time, but there are certainly process things that can be fixed and leadership behaviors that can be adjusted. So having been doing what I've been doing for so long, I can really see from sort of up at a bird's eye view as to what might be going wrong, and then offer different options and ideas to the leaders and to the teams on how they can really come together and be cohesive and do great work and make money for the business.
Yeah, that role is so critical. And I know it takes on different forms from organization to organization, but the HRBP role is so critical. So that's awesome that you've gone through quite a few.
I have
started as a temp as well. So I started smiling and I was like, yes, that is the foot in the door when I think about those who want to get into HR. Start as a temp, feel your way around. And there's so much to do under this umbrella.
A lot to do. a lot to
And
do.
you have two certifications, two designations, right? Do you have HRCI and SHRM?
I do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Same.
Yes. Well, and it's interesting because coming up through, again, having fallen into HR, like bloop, here you are in this temp job. And I loved it. And I rolled up my sleeves and I really got in there and I had some really incredible opportunities at a very early age too. And we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But I sort of felt like, okay, I feel like I'm good at this. I've got kind of in the trenches experience, but I feel like I need a certification or two to show people, to illustrate that I know what I'm doing and I've been trained. So that's why I went out and initially got the HRCI certification. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought I needed more. And I actually got the HRCI certification before I got my master's in HR.
Oh.
And then SHRM came around and decided they were going to grandfather everyone
Yes.
in.
Yes.
Yes. And I said, oh, right. That's me.
I know, same here. Same here. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Like, yeah, let's go with it. So this also question. When did the kids come into the picture, right? Were they early in your career, mid-career, kind of?
Yes, so this will give away my age, but I had my first child at 33 and my second child at 36. So I had them a little bit later in my career.
Yeah.
Which for me, I was feeling like I was wanting to get established in my career and start making, I started at, zero in career. I worked my way up the ladder. I worked my way up the ladder. So I wanted to work my way up the ladder to a certain extent before raising children. So yeah, I've been in career for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. So later in your career, at some point you decided to step away from corporate.
Yes. So stepping away from corporate, that was about 18 months ago. That was really recently. So I've been doing, I've been in global corporate companies, doing my thing, traveling, all the things that come with that, and have really enjoying all of those people and all of that work and all of those opportunities, because I had a great deal of opportunity in corporate. But I decided that I really was hoping for and wanting to build more flexibility into my world. And honestly, opportunity to potentially make more money. In corporate, I love corporate, but it's there's limits to everything. There are limits to the compensation, limits to all limits to the bonuses and all those kinds of things. And I decided, I think I could potentially have more upside going out on my own. So flexibility and designing my own schedule. And really, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like I fell into a real passion area with my work, where I felt like if I went out on my own, I could really work more in my passion area. And, it's interesting, and maybe you can relate to this. I'm not sure your timing, but at the end of my corporate career, I was spending hours of time in my day working on COVID policy, because we had sent people home, and literally day by day, hour by hour, trying to figure out, how do we run this business with, now that we're shut down, how do we do this thing? So a lot of time is also spent on that, which was very interesting and fascinating and very, very important work. But some of my colleagues were laughing at me kind of at the end. They're like, "Oh, Kate, we know you're counting down and leaving. No more COVID meetings."
Yeah.
Like, well, I might want to be doing something else. It's important work, but yes, I'll leave all the COVID expertise to all of you.
So I stepped away in May. So very, very recent.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Very, very recent. But I think what triggered that, part of it was flexibility. Part of it was just needing a break.
Okay.
The burnout, I think, that came with recruiting, and that's the space I lived in mainly during COVID, was intense, right?
Oh, yes.
It was very intense. And I work in financial services. So there were just a number of pieces at play, especially when COVID started. And we were like, are we hiring people to work from home? Because we don't do that, right? I'm hiring sales professionals at the time and branch managers. Like, let's talk to compliance, right? I was the first one, because I'm a native New Yorker. So I started hearing the rumblings, and I was like, what's our plan? It was like, oh no, we think it's just New York. And I was like, I'm fairly certain it's not, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yes.
And then we started the shutdown and the mixed messaging that came, when it came to those who were already on staff, but also the recruiting messaging, like, what does this look like? Yeah, we're planning to go back to the office soon. This is life changed.
I know. And
Um,
day by day, hour by hour.
yeah.
Yes.
And as we started talking more about the difficulty with finding great talent, the burnout got worse, right? And I was like,
Mm,
this is hard. Yeah, there's this great resignation is very, very real. People are shifting and wanting that flexibility, wanting that
yes.
focus on family. And if we're not providing that in our environment, we're going to have a problem. If we're constantly talking about the return to office, we're going to have a problem. So life started shifting for me. I'd say end of 2020, I lost my father. 2021, I
Oh,
was like, I am just going to pace myself a little bit more
good for
because
you.
life is happening, right?
Yes.
And if I'm not intentional, I'll be one of those people who burns out. I'm a single mother, so like burnout is not an option. They need me, right? The kids need me. So, yeah, May 2022, I said, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I've saved enough. I've been diligent about all that. I'm going to step away and pursue something I'm passionate about with the flexibility, less restrictions. And we're just going to ride with it for a bit. I'm enjoying it.
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I would say that. I mean, stepping away, it takes a lot of courage. It does.
Yeah.
Yes, it takes a
Yeah.
lot of courage. And there was a quote I'd read as I was pondering leaving and all that, leap and the net will appear. And there were
Mm,
definitely days where I'm like, okay, that net better be there.
yeah.
It better
'Cause
be
I'm
there
falling.
because I'm falling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. So in the very early days, I left my corporate job. We weren't really allowed to moonlight or anything like that or do side hustles really.
Same.
And especially working in HR
Same.
where you're really having to help people understand the policies and procedures. So I knew I couldn't really do that. So I did start to build my business when I was still at corporate, but really on weekends and evenings, very gently, because I didn't want to break that bond of trust with my employer. So when I left corporate, I did not have anything lined up really, because I knew I had to just make a clean break and then go do my own thing.
Mhm,
So I
mhm.
would say there was some, I mean, just straight up fear having after leaving, because it's like, okay, I left, I did the thing, I left, I hope the net will appear. Now what?
Yeah.
Now what's my plan now that I'm really in this? So yeah, it takes courage and just taking it one day at a time, and obviously having a plan, which we can certainly talk about. But
Mhm.
yes, all in all though, I wake up in the mornings and I don't know about you, but for years you set the alarm clock, years, and early alarm clock in the dark, and it's cold and it's just very stressful.
Yeah.
So having
Yeah.
left, one of the things I've told myself is sometimes you have to set the alarm clock, but I'm going to wake up when I wake up and then get into my day. I'm not going to be jarred awake by the alarm clock and having to race the clock to go drive to get in. So
Mhm,
that's
mhm.
another part of my
Yeah.
why is just allowing my nervous system a little bit of just a breather.
Talk to me about the boys, the young men, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, and a couple of things I'm thinking. One, the role they played in your decision to step away, if anything, and then how this has impacted your relationship with them.
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. It's so multi-layered too. So I too am a single mom.
Yeah.
My ex and I parted ways about 10 years ago. So it's been a
Wow.
long time. And I was always in jobs that were, let's just call myself the breadwinner, the one really making the income. So yeah, so it was just really tough in having to part ways with a spouse and try to continue career and raise these boys. And that was, I mean, they were always my first priority, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I need to make money, but I need to raise my boys in a great way. So fortunately, actually, I will say that my parents live about an hour and a half away,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were very, very helpful in those years to come down, maybe once a week or when they could, if I really needed, if I needed help with an early pickup or something like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, but I always tried to have jobs where and work for companies where there was a little bit of that flexibility, where if I needed to leave earlier, all those different things I could. So when I needed to go, I just left. It's like,
Right.
that's the priority. But yeah, so juggling career and the family, that was always a challenge. And I would say maybe similar to you, definitely reaching some burnout where you just can't be in multiple places at once and
Yeah.
racing the clock and all of those different things. So yes, definitely a challenge, but it felt like, they were becoming great young men and doing all the things. And the other thing I'll say is that when COVID hit and the shutdown happened, so I was sent home, they were sent home from school.
Yeah.
And everybody has a very different COVID experience. For some people, it was very challenging and very difficult, and a lot of pain and suffering with families. For me, I was just doing backflips. Like, yes, I'm home. I'm off the road. I can work at my computer and I can be efficient. And they're here. So I loved when we were all, the three of us were here in the house together. I really, really cherished that time. And then we were together until my son went away to college about a year ago. But even that, people ask me, oh my gosh, you must be so heartbroken and so sad. But at that point I said, we've been in the lockdown, we've been in the house.
Yeah.
Time for him to go and leave the house and go meet new friends, meet people, have new experiences. So yeah, so of course I miss him, but I'm also very excited for his adventure out at college. But yeah, I still have my one in the nest and we're very close.
Yeah. How's he liking mom, doing an entrepreneur thing like that?
Yes,
would be different.
It's interesting. My 16-year-old, he's a little bit of an entrepreneur himself.
Oh, really?
Yes. He has his own little Shopify store and sells different things in there. So I know. Yes. He's a really sharp kid. He's just really, really, I just adore him. So sometimes I'll share my stories of, working with a new client, and we just have this rapport about entrepreneurship. He's reading a book right now about entrepreneurship. So he's a unique kid. Yeah. We have a lot of fun together talking about business.
I love it. He's learning from mom. I
hope so.
Yes, yes. I love it. So we touched on something, and I want to dig deeper into that because it's front of mind for me as I look at in every interview. I see my graduation picture here. I see my master's here. And on the wall over here, I see my, I got a concentration in OD from Villanova, and then my SHRM CP and PHR on the wall.
Oh, yes.
And I still don't think it's enough. And my kids, right? My daughters are like, oh, they're so proud of mommy. Look at like mommy's doing this thing. And like mom's awesome. And she's so smart. And I tell everyone my mom is an HR director. I was like, that's not my role, but you could just, fine. And I still don't feel like it's enough. I still don't feel like it's enough. Right. And so let's spend a minute or two here because I know I'm not alone. I know this conversation actually came up with a very good friend of mine recently, a former colleague, and she felt like she needed to pursue a role that wasn't necessarily aligned with what she wanted to do, but she felt like others wanted her to do it. And she's like, I just don't feel like I've done enough. Like I'm kind of stuck. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts around that, because you also have designations, right? And you also have quite a bit of experience and you're a thought leader in this space. So I value your thoughts and your insight. Talk to me.
Wow, that's such a great question. And by the way, congratulations on all those certifications and awards up on your wall, because that is a lot. That's really impressive. Yeah, that's a lot. So I think what you're talking about could potentially be imposter syndrome. Is that what we're kind of getting at a little bit? Yeah.
That's what it feels like. And it shouldn't, right?
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I have a couple different thoughts on this. Early in my career, when I was very first getting into human resources, there were some people who left the HR department. So I just kept like getting these promotions. I kept going higher and higher at a very young age, which I was very excited about. I love the work, but I found myself up in the C-suite in my mid-20s with very little experience. And I 100% had imposter syndrome. And I was early in career. And so I just hadn't been given that opportunity before. And thinking back, I mean, you can't be embarrassed or ashamed because it's just life and it's just how it goes. But I would at times be in those meetings and I wouldn't have anything to say because I wouldn't feel secure enough, or I wouldn't feel like, well, I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the right point of view. So early in my career, I was more quiet in those meetings and had to outgrow that and had to tell myself, and as the years went on a little bit, it's like, no, you do have a point of view and you are good at your job. And people want to hear your point of view and opinion. So that was something that I had to learn to grow into and gain the confidence to share my voice. But early on in my career, I did feel like an imposter. But I was called up to those meetings to go do something or other. So I have lived imposter syndrome. And then let me fast forward to coming out to start my own business and be a coach and a business coach. There are the people out there that will say, well, I mean, have you done this before? The people, the rude people, whatever we want to call them, the haters and the naysayers, people who very well meaning, sometimes, yes, who it's like, well, I mean, have you done this before? Or, even I had a very dear family member, and I'd been out of corporate for a month, a very, very dear family member who was meaning well, but said to me, I mean, so how many clients do you have? I'm like, I'm a month out of corporate.
That's really? Not how this works. That's not how this works.
Yes. Yeah. So that starts to make you think, well, I mean, I'm very experienced, but I don't have a client today. Should I be doing this? Am I worthy? Did I think this? Did I think through this? Right. The other thing too, is that coming out and being a, coach, and I have coached as you have in human resources. That's all we do. We talk to people, we coach people, we advise people, we mentor people, we guide people, we're coaches.
All of it.
So years and years and years of experience. And then I also, coming out, would have a couple people say, do you have your coaching certification? And
you just hit a nerve.
Yes. And I said, well, wow, I have 2 very, very prestigious human resources certifications. Yeah. And what I went and did, I guess, to check my own, insecurity box was I actually had started a life coaching program, just it was a good program, but not maybe some of the deeper, real intense programs. So I went and I started that a couple of years ago, and then coming out of corporate, I thought, I'll just finish this. It was pretty easy to finish, and paid my little certification fee. And it's not the most prestigious coaching certification, but it is one, whatever.
Box check.
So box checked, but really for the kind of work I do, let me backtrack too, as far as a coaching certification goes, anybody can start a coaching certification program. And you probably know this as well. Anybody can start a coaching certification program. And a lot of people do, because it's a very lucrative business. And I actually had a coach coming out of corporate who was really building her own coaching certification business. And she's lovely. I loved her, but I'm like, gosh, wow, anybody can do this, I guess. Anybody can do this. And then you go under the ICF umbrella to make it, to give it more status. But yeah, so as far as my coaching today and imposter syndrome, I just have to fall back on, I have 2 decades of very senior level, global level HR experience working with leaders and teams. So I've got my certifications. I feel like I can help you. And there are a lot of people out there that need help at all different levels and on all different kinds of topics. So I think if you are a service provider of any background and feel like you can help someone, then you should do that. You should do that and be proud that you are helping someone. Yeah. And of course, we want to help them in the ways with the highest integrity and honor and all those things. We want to be on the up and up. But if you can help someone, then go help them.
I heard you mention something, and that's kind of like self-talk, right? Yeah. You had to say to yourself, you are absolutely more than capable of doing this and adding value to someone's life.
Yes. Yeah. That is an ongoing, as humans, that is an ongoing conversation, is the mindset work. And really, yes, having those conversations, all is well, I got this.
Yeah.
all those different things. And trust me, I literally spend a part of my almost every single day, having those conversations with myself to the mindset work, doing the mindset work, because especially if you are going to be an entrepreneur, you're out on your own, you do need to have a good mindset to just keep going one day after the other. I find that that's one of the tricks of being an entrepreneur is we just got to keep going.
Yeah.
When the people aren't clicking the like button or the people aren't doing the thing, making the comment or whatever, we just keep going because we know what we're offering is valuable. It's valuable. And we're just going to keep helping people and talking about how we help people. We're just going to keep going. So that's a lot of mindset work.
You talked about kind of every day, right? So you've got to be intentional. And I'm working on this as a regular practice, setting those daily affirmations, those daily intentions, right? Starting my day saying, I got this, right? I am where I'm supposed to be. I am more than capable. And kind of that self-talk you mentioned about, there's another part of what I do every day, and I want to hear your thoughts on it, because it helps me not just work towards goals, but like have clarity, right? And be intentional, right? And these are things that my kids are learning. So I have one at home, one who's away, moved away. She's grown, or maybe not. She actually wants me to buy her a car, but that's another story for another day. She's grown, but they're watching everything I do and don't do, right? So I talk to them about affirmations in the morning and starting your day. But I also talk to them about the importance of setting goals, and they see me do it. They see me write it out, not just a list of things to do, but like being super intentional about setting. So talk to me and the community a bit about, how you go about that. Daily routine, right? And then let's talk about the goal setting piece. Kind of how do you structure your day with that focus on intentionality? And then talk to us a little bit about how goal setting plays a role in your day-to-day activities.
Yeah. So I try to wake up without my alarm clock, but I generally wake up pretty early, and then my son goes to school. So getting up and getting ready with him, whatever, getting him over to school. And then I come home, and then I typically put on my sneakers and I go out for a walk. Usually most every day, unless I have an earlier meeting than I had expected, but go out for a walk. And that's really where I'm either listening to a podcast, or I'm just clearing my mind, or I'm just trying to get into an appreciation mode, appreciating the trees and the birds in the sky, all those things that feel so silly, but just trying to be, I get into a good mindset. And if I'm having like a really organized day, I would perhaps come back and I will try to, and this is a little bit of a newer practice, but something that I'm trying out is going into a meditation. Just a 15-minute meditation where I'm really just trying to really clear my mind and just let all the junk fall away and all the looping thoughts. And this is not easy for me because I tend to be wired, and, it's like, is the phone going to ring? Is there an email there? Did the text just buzz? Or I need to get to my to-do list. So I'm really trying to be mindful. Let's just try that for 15 minutes and see how that goes with just releasing it. And to see if at the end of that, anything sort of comes to my mind, like, I should go call that one person that it's see if there's a little aha moment that comes at the end of that. That's something that I'm trying to be attuned to. And then I might eat a little breakfast, and then I get to my day. And then I get to my day, and I tend to start my meetings around 10 a.m. ish, right around then, just so I have my morning routine. And then I will work typically till about 4, doing all the different things. And then I'll try to get myself to the gym after that a couple days a week.
Okay.
And then,
not there yet.
Only a couple days a week.
Yes.
And then my son will typically come home and we'll do dinner, and he'll be getting to his homework. And and then I'm potentially winding down my night. So that's just generally speaking, a typical day in the life. Yeah. And really coming out of corporate, really trying to, because I'd been going really hard. I'd been going really hard with the commute. That was absolutely so not even realistic, but I got myself into a completely unrealistic commute and racing the clock, and, up on, a bridge every day and all of that. So it was a very heightened, a very heightened time with the commute.
Yeah.
And yeah, and just all trying to take care of the family and the job and all the things. So coming out of corporate, one of my goals is to just try to let some empty space be okay. So, and trust me, I don't have that much empty space, but at least where I'm not doing every minute and critiquing myself if I don't get every box checked on every day. So just trying to have a little more grace toward myself in this new world I'm creating for myself.
Yeah, you touched on a few things. So one, I'll say I haven't had a major commute since I was in high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was living in New York. And I went to school at a completely different part of Queens. And so my commute was about an hour and a half
Oh
each way.
gosh, yes, yes.
It was one bus and 3 trains. And I'm thinking, like, in hindsight, why did your mother sign off on this? Why did your mom and your dad say that it's okay for you to choose this school? But it was a fantastic school.
Okay.
Fantastic
Okay.
Catholic school. So it was worth it.
Yes. Yes.
But then I worked after school. So talk about learning balance at a young age, right? But I'm thinking about the commute piece, and I've worked from home for probably 11, 12 years, roughly, give or take.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I knew when my daughter was young that childcare was just going to cripple me. And for a couple of reasons. One, I had a nanny when she was born, a live-in nanny who lived with us during the week. And I was still a single mother, but I had 2 kids in the house at the time. And I was like, I need someone here all the time. So she was there until she decided not to show up one day. And I thought, wow, this is rough. So I put my youngest in daycare, and I was like, I am working just to pay for childcare. And I knew at that point I needed to figure out, and it wasn't as popular back then, but I needed to figure out how to work from home. And then my dad's health started to decline. And I was like, now I need to move and be closer to my family and work from home and not pay the childcare. So I've been a remote employee for years. But you also said something else, and that's the meditation piece. And I think, like, as I thought through the concept of balancing my life, work and home, and finding that correct proportion for me. Once I started meditating, and I didn't start this until probably 2020. So, it's been a couple of years, and I sucked at it for the first year and some change.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Right. And if I'm being honest, there are some days now where, depending on what's going on in my life, I may set the timer to do a 10-minute meditation. I'll log into my app, she'll start talking, and I'm like, what did I say was for dinner? Like, right. Does she have a plan today? Yes. Does she work today? That's me. But then I remind myself, you know what, Grace, like, bring it back with the breath. You're still here. It's fine. Life's still happening. But right now we need to be intentional about this focus. And I think meditation has been life-changing for me. Like, I feel better. I genuinely feel healthier, and my mind is clear, even if I don't get it right every time. So I say stick with it.
I agree.
It won't be 100% every day. As a matter of fact, most days it might not be. But when it's right, you notice the difference. You feel it.
I agree. Yes, it's a work in progress. Some days are good. Some days are a little more challenging, but just trying to continue to sit there, just try to bring it back.
Yeah.
Just try to bring it back. Trying to relax and let those buzzing thoughts just quiet for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Not easy, but again, if you can sort of tune in at the end of it, you're like, okay, all right, let's go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now it's time to tackle the day. So goal setting, right?
Yes.
Once my mind is clear, I like to do a brain dump. Sometimes I do it at night. Sometimes I do it in the morning. I have my list of things to do. I have a daily planner. I switched to digital. I have quite a bit of paper that I've spent a whole lot of money on because I was a paper planner, but I like goal setting. I even have spreadsheets. Like, it's to the point of being ridiculous.
Okay.
But it has been critical for me for probably the past, I'd say 2 decades of my life. And that's establishing goals and then every day trying to be intentional about working towards those goals. Okay, so what's the goal? How am I going to achieve this? And again, my kids are watching me, right? And so in everything I do every day, I'm like, okay, is this getting me closer to my goal? And because that's part of my practice, the little one, understands that, okay, what's my goal? And the big one, who's a little more scattered, I love you, Tiara, who's a little more scattered, she eventually brings it back to what the goal is. And I think she's finally getting there, like, okay, I am going to be in fashion. Like, I don't know exactly what, but that's the goal. And she's working towards that, right? So talk to me a little bit about being intentional about goal setting and then being intentional about working towards achieving those goals, especially as we try to balance so much.
Yes. Okay. First of all, I can probably take a page from your playbook on goal setting. It sounds like you have the system. So
It's a little crazy.
I want to know a little more from you, but I'll tell you what I do. But yes, you do, especially as a business owner, entrepreneur, you have to have goals. Otherwise you're just going to be sitting there and just not getting anything done. So you've got to have some goals. And I feel like there are kind of the big visionary goals. I mean, one of my big visionary goals is I live in the Bay Area. And when my son graduates from high school, I would like to go down to Southern California. I want to make a move down there. So that's a big goal.
Right.
So I might have a list of some things where, over the next year and a half, I need to do. Kate, you need to get into the garage and really organize the garage. So there are things that will be under those bigger vision goals. So I'll probably need to give myself a date for those garage cleanings where I can really commit to it. But so I think they're the bigger goals. And then you have some action steps to that. One thing that I do that I find it just helps me for some reason, but I also have, those giant the Post-it boards, like giant poster size Post-it boards. I love those. And I think I grew to love those in corporate when I was doing different team facilitation workshops and writing on the whiteboard.
Yep.
And then you peel the giant poster board off and you stick it on the wall and go to the next one. Well, I just love the visual of that. And that's something that I actually have here at my house, are the giant poster boards.
I love that.
Yeah. And I get those out, and I actually have one just sitting right over here where I might have a goal. For example, I'm doing a presentation in October, and I need to, so that, that's the goal, is I've committed to doing a presentation. I have to deliver it. So how am I going to do that? So I'm really mapping out on this giant poster board the flow of my slides and what am I trying to, what's the purpose of this presentation? What are the benefits? What are the takeaways? So, but just having a big visual for me is something that's really helpful with trying to achieve the goal. So yeah. And I come back to the post-it, I have some due dates for different things, but I come back to the poster and add to it and look at it again and see if it's all flowing. So that's another tactic that works for me.
Yeah.
I do also have old school notebooks and put a little checkbox where there are things I need to get done in service to a goal where here's something interesting that I heard. There's a woman who's online. Her name is Catherine Zemkina, and she talks a lot about manifestation. And instead of calling it a to-do list, this seems very simple, but she calls it a to manifest list. Ooh. So that's something I started using as well. It's like, it's not to do. No, this is to manifest.
You grab the notepad.
Yeah, to manifest. So I have my to manifest list as well.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. But I think as well, we have, as far as goal setting, there are, like I said, kind of bigger life goals, like my goal to move down to Southern California. There's life and lifestyle goals. And then there are some business goals, and maybe there's some goals with clients. And I actually have been working with a company they've just gone through 360 performance reviews. That's where you would do a self-review, and then your manager reviews you, peers, those sort of things. And I've committed the company to help them with the actual report, which is a giant, like, oh my God, like the feedback, on this 360 report, here's all the feedback from my boss and my peers. So I'm coming in to go through the report with them and look at all these areas of strength that you have. Wow, these are really amazing areas to leverage. This is great feedback. Here are the areas of opportunity, we'll call them, and
Mhm.
and diving into what those different things look like. And at the end of that conversation, what I'm helping them do, because it's just so much information. So what I'm helping them do at the end of these meetings is say, okay, what are two things that you want to continue in
Mhm.
service to your strengths? You're really
Mhm.
good at, we've just named 7 things, but what are 2 things you really want to be intentional about and continue doing to make an impact? So we just land on 2.
Yeah.
And then we go to, what are 2 things that you want to start doing in service to what we just talked about? Yes, you could do 10 things, and yes, you could be stressed out and angry with yourself, or feel like you're just not getting to those areas. What are just 2 actionable things to start? And sometimes they come back with lofty, oh, I'm going to, design this new thing. It's like, okay, but what exactly? Tell me,
Right.
how will you do that? Let's talk about when you walk out of the room. How exactly are you going to write a list? Are you going to call those 2
Yeah.
people? So really trying to help also in my work, people get focused on just a couple,
Yeah.
again, just a couple of actionable items that you can really go and do and feel like you can actually walk out of the room and be like, yes, I can go do those things. I can do those 2 things. So I can be accountable to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're doing that for an organization, but I think about the importance of us doing that in our own lives,
Oh,
right?
yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'd love to hear,
Prioritizing.
may I ask you, tell me a little bit about your goal setting process, because it sounds like you have a really great system.
It has shifted. So one thing I
Okay.
know about my systems is that I have to be flexible because life shifts, right?
Yes.
So many, many years ago, my really good friend, my best friend, and I put together this spreadsheet. As a matter of fact, she might have put it together and then I just tweaked it. But we listed our goals, right? And they were categorized. So it was financial, it was personal, it was
Yes.
education. And in the spreadsheet, we had a column for each day. So set one day and you just drag it across and it'll populate all the days for the rest of the year. And every day we needed to be intentional about doing something to get us closer. So it's that accountability spreadsheet that we had for years. Fast forward a few years and I started investing in planners, right? A couple of really good planner companies, some nice leather covers, agenda covers.
Pretty. Yes.
Yeah, like I went all in. Stickers sometimes. It wasn't as color coded. I'm more of a minimalist when it comes to that. Um, but outlining, okay, these are my top 3 for the day. I have all this other stuff, but these are my top 3, right? So if I'm wondering what I should be working on now in my downtime, pick one of these 3 things, right? And focus on that, and I like setting a timer. That helps me get through the day. So it's like, okay, give me 15, 20 minutes to just laser focus on this, one of my priorities, ideally. And then I'm going to take a break. And it's going to be to get fresh air. Sometimes I just go stand back in the garden or I stay on the front porch and I'm like, okay, regroup, work on whatever you want to now. But the next time you're ready to get laser focused, it's going to be your next priority or your next priority. And now fast forward. So again, it shifts a little bit. Now I think more of business goals, right? Because the business goals are inevitably going to feed all the other goals I have of purchasing
Yes.
a home abroad and all this other stuff. Yes, that has been on the list. And my kids know, they're like, Mommy's talked about it. It is going to happen. And so I'm intentional about saving a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here, because they know if I say it's happening, it's happening.
It's happening.
It's
Well, and
happening.
that's probably one of the most power things with goals and goal setting is declaring it, saying this will
Yes.
happen. May not
Yeah.
happen tomorrow, and we may not be exactly sure how it's going to happen. It may come to us differently than we expected, but if you
Yeah.
declare it, that is so powerful.
Yeah. It's writing it down. I mean, we talk about, we can sit and talk until we're blue in the face about things I want to do, and I want to do this and I want to do that. If I'm not putting pen to paper and writing it down and then saying, okay, how am I going to achieve this? Like, first of all, is this realistic? But how am I going to achieve this? We're talking about SMART goals until we're blue in the face, right?
Yes, yes.
But what's the plan, right? And being intentional about it and keeping those goals front and center. So I have a very cute little whiteboard, one of
Oh,
those
I see it.
blackboards
Yes,
back there
yes.
behind me. And I like to say, okay, this is the goal I'm going to focus on today, or these are the two that I'm going to focus on. I don't focus on everything every day anymore. Back when I was 20 something, fine, sure, yeah, I could do that. Or at least I thought I could. Now I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on this one goal for today, or this one goal this week, and I'm just going to knock stuff out, right? When I'm writing my list of things to do, I have to be intentional about saying, this is my focus this week. I don't want to be scattered. I want to be intentional and laser focused. And I work best that way. But I realize my kids are like peeling off different pieces of that, because I say different strokes for different folks. And neither one of them is the most organized human being in the world. They're like, I don't know. Like, am I your mother? Like, are you really not? Yeah, like the doctors say this was the right baby, but yeah, they're not very yeah, when it comes to organization, like I've bought planners for both of my kids, and it's just not like, Caitlin, how do you keep track of your work schedule? Mommy, I just know it's in a text. And I was like, but you don't put it on the calendar? And she's like, no. I said, but how am I supposed to know when I have to take you? She's like, can I just text you? I was like, no. Can you put it on the calendar? So we had a whole lesson on how to schedule things in Google Calendar. Because I'm like, I can't, like, you need to learn these tools, right? If there's something that needs to be accomplished, let's write it down. Let's write it somewhere. So it's a work in progress. And I constantly loop them into my discussions when I'm talking about this balance, right? Because they're a huge part of why I do what I do, right? Like,
Yes.
life would be very different without my kids. Very, very, very different. I don't know that I would be as determined. I don't know that I would be as focused and intentional. Like, I don't know. One never knows, but they bring something unique to my life that just gives
Oh,
me
I
that
love that.
motivation to keep going.
Yes, I love that
Yeah.
so much. I love
Yeah.
that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. And I can probably guess that they are learning by osmosis from you. I'm sure maybe they're not acknowledging it or adopting everything, but I think I bet it's coming into their field. Uh-huh.
Yes. My 24-year-old is finally acknowledging it, that she has listened to me and she has learned, and she said she's starting a podcast. And I was like,
Wow. Oh, how exciting.
I don't know what she's talking about. She's like, okay, I need you to be my first guest. I said, okay, put it on my calendar. Literally today. She's like, what do you mean? And I was like, okay, can you just send a calendar invite? And she's like, but I'm on the phone telling you. I was like, no, Tiara, if you don't put it on the calendar, it doesn't get done. And we had a whole lesson. So the 16-year-old was probably a few weeks ago. The 24-year-old is like, do you really need me to put something on your calendar? I was like, yeah. Let's get in the habit of doing that.
I agree. And I
Oh
absolutely, and I think this is something I learned obviously in corporate as well, but I do live by my calendar. My calendar helps me understand the flow of my day and what I need to do, when I need to be aware. So I completely, a calendar is an absolute must for me. And I think especially if you're an entrepreneur,
Absolutely.
I would hope you have a calendar, even if you don't have meetings booked, but like you say, you carve out time, you set your timer to get things done. And I have to say, I love your intentionality with your goals and focusing and dedicating a day or a week to it. If you can't do that, it's really, especially as an entrepreneur, it's going to be probably a much longer road to get things done. But if you can have that focus and that intention and that discipline, because it does take discipline to stay focused, you're going to be able to, I think, move faster toward what you want to do. Yeah.
Agree. And there's so many other things, right? If I don't have her get in the habit of scheduling things, I will forget, and she will forget, because one of my kids has a really good concept of time, and typically late for just about everything. And so I want them to get into the habit of saying, okay, this time block right here is for this. Right. And during this time, we're going to focus on this. So in order for us to start at this time, and it could be my military background, who knows, we have to be there early, right? Like,
okay. Yes, I agree.
At the start time of work. That's not how it works, right? We have to have commute time and allow for traffic, the whole planning, right? Being intentional about being on time. But I take care of a home. I volunteer. Like, you have to schedule things. As much as we want to be free flowing creative sometimes, you have to put things in time.
I agree. And I would add that if you can schedule a pretty tight day for yourself, where maybe your day does start at 10 and
Mhm.
it ends at 4, and you say to yourself, I'm going to be very intentional about my day and how I organize it and how I line it up, so
Yes.
that when it is 4 o'clock, I can be done and know I hit my goals, or I did what I promised myself I was going to do. And now I can be free. I can go do
Yeah.
whatever I want. I don't have to keep checking and looking and logging back on and then checking the thing. It's like, no, you made that commitment to yourself, 10 to whatever the time, 10 to 4, going to dial in, and
Yeah.
then you're done to be free and flexible and do whatever else you want to do.
Yeah. That's it right there. I made the commitment to myself, right? I did what I was supposed to do. Now let me
That's
close
right.
the office door and go be Christina outside of the office. Go sit
Yes.
down with the family,
Yes.
go veg on the couch, go for the walk, go, chat with the neighbor.
Yes, yes. And I think as well, they talk, there's a lot of talk about being present, especially with your kids as a
Yes.
parent. You don't
Yes.
want to have your phone and you see, I mean, it's a habit. Phones are a habit, and we're
Hmm.
checking, we have the kids there, and the kids are yanking on us, and we're checking the phone. But yeah, I think if you, when it is time to turn off work or whatnot, really turning it off so that you can be present with family members or loved ones, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Do you remember when phones weren't a thing?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I
I
tell
love
my
you to
kids that all the
say,
time. I'm like, do you
yeah,
realize I did not have a phone when I was in high school? Like,
phone?
what are you talking about?
My gosh. And the funny thing is, I went to work after school, right? So ninth and 10th grade, I was in boarding school, but 11th and 12th grade, when I moved back to New York, I went to work and I'm like, was that safe without a phone? I didn't have a phone,
I know, I know, I
but
know.
I lived.
Well, and then there were, I was thinking about the pay phones that used to be on the street corners or whatnot. And you put the quarter in or the
Yes.
dime and use a pay phone. So we were
Yes.
resourceful. We worked it out, but
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Today it's just so much different.
My daughter saw a payphone, the little one. We were at a gas station. I'd never seen this payphone. I don't know where it came from, but it must have been there the whole time. And I'm pumping gas. She's like, "Oh my gosh, mommy, I've heard about those things, but I've never seen a payphone." And I was like, "Wait a minute, that is
Wow.
that is a
Yeah.
payphone." I was like, "One day I'm going to introduce you to like rotary phones, right?" And
Oh, wow. Okay. Yes,
I'm going to put a
yes.
phone on the wall and tell you good luck with a cord that you could just drag around the house. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. I grew up in a house where we had the phone on the wall, and I don't even know how long this phone cord was. You could take that phone anywhere. That
Out of
cord
the
is so long.
kitchen, through the dining
Yes.
room.
Yes. Yes. Go have your
Oh
private
my gosh.
conversation with
Yes, yes.
with the long phone cord.
Oh my gosh. Let me ask you this, Kate. So when I say balanced success, right? Because I think that I know there's this negative connotation these days around the word balance, right? There's no such thing as balance. And I'm like, oh, maybe we can create our own. But when I say balanced success or some sort of harmony between success and life,
Yes.
what does that look like to you, right? What comes to mind?
I feel like I've been sharing this throughout our conversation on
Yeah.
what balance looks like to me, and where I want to keep my mornings a little bit open so I can go do the walk and go get into nature and all those things. I can turn off at 4 or whatever time it is to go to the gym if I feel like doing that, or go be with family, or go do whatever. So I think balance for me, it is reclaiming my time.
Mm.
I feel like time is such a precious resource for me, and having raising kids and hustling through the career and commuting and racing the clock and all those things. So for me, balance is a value that's really gone much higher on my list, is that I want to live and some days you won't have balance due to whatever, but really trying to live more in balance. And like we just talked about, just being disciplined during core hours of the day, where I know, look, you're going to dial in, focus in, you're going to get these things done. You're going to have the client meetings. You're going to talk, you're going to have other powerful conversations that impact the business. So it is having that discipline, so I can have that balance outside of those core hours. So I think that's what it means to me, just that time, the beauty of time, and the beauty of knowing I can go again for that walk and get into nature. Cause that's just what fills me up, where you feel yourself exhale, and it's like, okay, now I can go get in my day and do all those things. So I feel like I feel like And balance, we know it's hard for working parents and moms. It is hard to find it, but if you can find just a little bit and then maybe build on it a little bit more, I think we can find just nuggets of balance or respite, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. Yeah. Respite.
Respite. Yeah.
I like that. So how can we find you? How can we connect you for those out there seeking a coach to help them navigate this thing called life and career?
Yes. Thank you so much, Christina. Yeah. So, I mean, as I'd mentioned, I've come out of corporate human resources. So I find myself working with people who are in working scenarios, at the workplace generally, or those are the people I'm talking with the most. People that are trying to attain a goal at the workplace, that they're having trouble deciphering, why am I not hitting this goal? Or what am I not seeing? What's the blind spot?
Yeah.
Or the leader who's struggling with the team and just saying, something is off here. I don't know why we're not in this, in more of a seamless, harmonious process. Or the employee that's struggling with the boss saying, why can't I can't quite decipher what's happening? Or the CEO or the top manager who I just talked to a top manager the other day who said something so profound, but I've heard it before, where he said, Kate, it's really lonely at the top. Ooh. It's really because you don't have a confidential experienced person to bounce things off of and brainstorm with and say things that might be perceived as stupid, or maybe you're sharing vulnerabilities where it's like, there's someone on my team I'm not getting along with, and it's really hard. And I don't, who can I talk to about this? It's someone on the team. I need a trust. So what I really love about my work is I do feel like that trusted confidant who someone can come to with their business issues, and I can help guide them in a trusted sort of way. So I work in those different areas. So you can find me, you can come to my website at katewalker.com just to see, a little bit more about me and different ways to work with me. I'm on Instagram. I have a little more fun on Instagram, just being a little more playful with my posts, and that's at the Kate Walker. Awesome. And then I'm also on LinkedIn, Kate Walker, SPHR. So that's how you can find me. And please come and connect, because I really love to meet new people. And Christina, I'm so glad. I feel like you're going to be a new friend in my life. So I'm so glad to have met you.
You're stuck. You're stuck.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Yay.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you, Kate, for your time. Thank you for your insight and your wisdom. You have shared so much with us today. Our mom friends are walking away with some serious nuggets, and for that, we are grateful. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation. It's been very special. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat.
Okay. Take care.
Right. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening today. Make sure you stay connected with the virtual six-figure mom community. Hit subscribe for podcast episodes. Visit our website at www.virtualsixfiguremom.com and join our growing online community on Instagram and LinkedIn.